This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Thank you for joining the Purpose Driven Sobriety podcast. My name is Christine and I'm an alcoholic. I would like to thank today's sponsor, Carlisle Realty here in the Central Texas area. If you are in the market to buy or sell a home, reach out to Carlisle Realty. They are amazing individuals. Sydney Carlisle, thank you so much for your support. And so today we have on the show Miss Leah Kay. And Leah, you are out of Rhode Island, correct?
Indeed, I am.
Awesome,
yes.
awesome. Well, on the show, what we do is just like in meetings, we share our experience, strength, and hope. And I met Leah in one of the recovery pages on Facebook, which again, I say this, it seems like almost every show. There are some great resources online, just there the same way there is in in-person meetings. You kind of got to try them on and see if they fit, and the same thing with online. So, you can get a lot of experience, strength, and hope from some of the support groups and recovery pages on Facebook. So, Leah, without further ado, I'm going to give you the floor, and so maybe you could share with us what it was like, what happened, and what you're like now.
Sure, I will. So I'll certainly give it a shot.
Awesome.
It's a loaded question indeed. Um, growing up and stuff, I was raised in Indiana. So, I was a country girl and small town kind of vibes. It was never an issue growing up, as far as, substance use or any of that. And I moved out to Rhode Island, to live with a family friend while I started school in Boston. And I ended up getting into an accident with a driver who was under the influence. Very unexpected. Of course, it was literally, within seconds, my whole life changed. And I think part of this too that I do want to mention, because, in the work I've done on myself over the years, I've recognized that I lost my father about 6 weeks after I graduated from high school. And that, I believe, also played a role deep down. It was something that I believe, I was still grieving in a lot of ways. I still am. When you lose a parent, it's something that you don't quite get over.
Sure.
But so after the accident, and this is, just to put it into perspective, this was in the winter of 2020, the winter of 2002. I'm so used to saying 2020. And, so oxys were new and they were really, being kind of pushed by doctors. My lawyer had sent me to one of those special pain doctors. And before I knew it, I was being prescribed about a month's worth of oxys about every 7 to 10 days. And, I'm somebody who I had no experience. I had no idea about withdrawal. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I also didn't take as many as I was even prescribed. But very quickly, within a couple of months, I noticed that I was depending, that my day was like, oh, I have to take this when I get up. Oh, I need this. I have to take this medication to do my daily life, to go to school, to work, whatever it was. I was still trying to function, and I functioned for a while. And then it turned into, you get to that point when my case with the driver got to a certain point, they started cutting back on things. And however, my addiction, my dependence, was very much still strong. And I ended up, starting to reach out to friends, and asking for more pills and looking for things on the street, so to speak. That turned into eventually using heroin. Again, not expected. Something, it was just the natural progression of it, where things landed, and, things went downhill pretty quickly. Um, I still tried to continue, working and going to school. I was pretty functioning for several years. I ended up taking some time off of school. I was a college student at the time. I tried to, go to detox and do the rehab thing for the first time. I came and, I had no experience. I tried to get involved with NA, and I did okay for a while. I just wasn't ready, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hindsight's 2020, of course. You don't know if you don't know.
Sure.
But, so as time went on, life was like that for the better part of a decade. It was me trying to hang on, trying to work, trying to go to school, trying to be the person I thought I should be. My addiction just kept going. I eventually became an IV heroin user. Um, and, things really escalated, of course. My life was just kind of messy. It got really messy. My relationships with my family, with my friends, with my work, jobs came and went. Um, I did go back to school. I did finish my degree. And I did that during a time that I was on methadone.
Oh,
I
wow.
ended up getting involved with the criminal justice system. And I was one of the first people involved in Rhode Island's drug court. And this was in 2007, 8. And I asked for treatment. I asked for support. I wanted help. Um, and I was actually court ordered onto methadone, which you don't really hear a lot. Um, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that I could have advocated differently, but being on methadone did allow me to, go back to school. I got a job at the University of Rhode Island. I was functioning, It ended up not being a great long-term solution for me. I was having issues with my lungs. I have really bad asthma. And as methadone is an opioid and it represses breathing, it was really, it was not a good thing for me in the long run.
Right.
But, I did finish that degree. Um, but I ended up having several return to uses. I have had a lot of issues with the system, with being able to afford treatment, to have access to treatment. A big part of this too is also because I was in an accident with someone who was under the influence. That situation, that was very traumatic for me, and I had trouble getting behind the wheel of a car. So I didn't have my license for many years. And that kept me from being able to access a lot of different supports, and to get to places on a daily basis. But so long story short, I'll try to, kind of get to the good stuff because it gets good. Um, things were up and down for several years, but I'm going to fast forward to September of 2015. So this is several years later. Um, I had reached a point where, I wanted help. I didn't want to be living the way I was living, quote unquote, living, because I wasn't living, I was surviving. Um, and I ended up going to, I had several overdoses. I know I'm leaving a lot of stuff out. I've literally had so many overdoses, I cannot tell you how many I've had. I have woken up on the floor many times. I've woken up in hospitals many times. I've woken up in the back of ambulances many times. It's very scary. But what's tricky about an overdose is that when you experience an overdose, at least for me and pretty much everybody I've ever talked to who's had an opioid overdose, you don't remember it. Just one minute you're going to use your drug of choice, or you've used your drug and you're living your life. And then you wake up somewhere. You're
Mm.
either in a hospital, people standing over you, or you just wake up on the floor like I have many times. But so I had one of those occurrences and I ended up going to a local hospital, and they moved me over to the psychiatric ward for just to be monitored. And a gentleman walked up to my bedside and he said to me, you know, to like a synopsis of it was basically like, if I can get you into treatment today, will you go? If I can get you a bed, will you go? I said, absolutely, 100%. And he advocated for me. He found a spot for me, and I went to treatment that day. So I went to detox, and I was there for maybe a week and a half. And I refused to go home. I said, this time I'm not going home. This time, put me somewhere safe. If I go back to that same environment, I'm going to go right back to what I was doing. I need to change what I'm doing. I need to change
Wow.
my habits. And I did. And I stayed in like it was kind of like a crisis stabilization unit, I think they call it. So I stayed there for about a week until my bed opened up in it was a 90-day women's treatment center inpatient. So I stayed in that crisis stabilization. My mom came and picked me up. I'm starting to get emotional. Sorry.
Just the fact that, let's pause there
Yeah.
then, Leah. Just the fact that
Yeah.
you came to that awareness that
Yeah.
if I go home, I'm gonna die. I think, I mean, I think you articulated it that I'll go back to that life, which you knew was leading you to death. The fact that that's just amazing to me. That's amazing to me that you had that, and it's to me, and I know that you know that now. That gift of desperation to me is beautiful.
Yeah. I
Do you
mean,
know what I
definitely.
mean?
I had tried many times. Like, I'm leaving a lot of stuff out for the sake of time, you know? Um, I had been through detox many times. I had been to intensive outpatient programs. I had been to so many NA and AA meetings. I can't even tell you. I had tried smart recovery. I tried different things. And part of this, too, for me, I know, was that I deal with chronic pain. When I was in that car accident, it caused permanent damage to my spine, and I have neuropathy. And dealing with that, like, you need pain management. And I'm also not a small person, and I've never been a small person, just who I am, genetics and what have you.
Mm.
I've tried yoga's helped through the years, different things, but like I was self-medicating for so many things. Pain, like physical pain, mental pain, the grief of losing my father, relationships. I had a marriage that ended in 2009. There were things that had happened that I didn't have the coping skills in place. And I was medicating, trying to deal with it, for lack of a better word. But when that gentleman came to me, I was in such a place. And I knew that I could be sober. I knew that I could lead an abstinence based life, or I could go back on some sort of medication assisted treatment. It had worked for me before. It was like I was looking through the keyhole at a life that I wanted. And I
Mm.
saw the light through the keyhole, and
Wow.
it was like he had that key and he was like, let's go. And I did it. And I started to get emotional because I was thinking about, my mom. And she came to pick me up that day to go to that treatment program. And it's just that, my mom's been by my side through a lot. And since then I've went on to support other families. And I work as a peer recovery specialist now and a community health worker, an addictions professional. I'm a trainer. I do, as whatever I can. I just um families and what they go through trying to support their loved one. It's so difficult. I've
Mhm.
given my mother trauma. She was just there for me. She still is, thankfully, But it just hits me. I
Sure.
think some of that is, guilt and shame and things that I'm still working through, of
Right.
course.
Right.
But so I went to that 90-day treatment program, and I lived with 15 other women, which was so much fun.
Ooh, fireworks.
Drama. Oh boy, drama and all kinds of fun stuff. But also some of those girls, you know, um, I still keep in touch with a couple of them, but I'm gonna be honest here. A lot of them aren't with us anymore.
Mhm.
Just after I left that treatment program in December of 2015, my abstinence date, my recovery date, my rebirth date, whatever you want to call it, is September 26, 2015. That was the last time I had found it necessary, to use a substance, that, to self-medicate. Um, that it was my drug of choice, and I haven't found it necessary since. But just after I left that treatment program in December, I think it was early January, maybe even late January. Regardless, a friend of mine who I had lived in that treatment center with passed away. She had overdosed. She picked up one time, once, and she was gone. And her daughter found her.
Oh, wow.
And it was just a horrible situation. And I'll also share that that's the last funeral I went to, because I walked in there and I saw her, and she wasn't smiling. She wasn't, her. And it's just really like, it was hard because I think we've all lost a lot of friends and colleagues and, people we met through the years. But I saw her lying there, and almost fell to my knees. And I turned around and I walked out into the parking lot, and I made a promise to myself that, I didn't have to go back to a funeral if I didn't need to, and that it was okay, and that I could just remember these friends for who they were, and
Mhm.
they would be okay with that. And so most of the girls I was in that treatment program with are no longer alive today. That's a really hard thing for me to talk about sometimes, but it's also a very harsh reality. And I think it's something that a lot of us are dealing with right now. We've lost people. It's painful. I mean, I don't think, and maybe it's the circle that I associate with, or the work that I do, but most everybody I know has been directly impacted.
Mhm.
And it's damn shame. So many beautiful people, kids growing up without their parents. There's lots of grandparents raising their grandkids. It's affected a lot of us.
Well, I'll tell you,
So-
I just came from literally before I came to the studio to sit and talk with you, I came from an AA meeting, and a guy announced that his son had just killed himself,
oh,
and it's just like yeah, this disease, man, it's fucking wretched.
yes, it is.
People just, oh man, you're right. It's the fact that we're survivors is just, to me, it's a miracle. To me, it's a
Yeah.
miracle. So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, by all means. I feel survivor's guilt.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, at
like
times.
I
Mhm.
it hits me. It's like, why am I still here? By all means, I should not be. And that's a hard thing to kind of deal with. I mean,
Mm.
how many times have horrible things happened, and I should have by all means been gone, and I'm still hanging in there. But I will tell you, the next part of my story was that I got out of that treatment program. I went home, kind of changed everything, like who I was hanging out with. I jumped right into those meetings I had been going to when I was in treatment, NA, AA, um, tried different ones, went to Smart Recovery, Dharma Recovery, different stuff. I just kind of immersed myself in it,
Mhm.
like I knew I needed to stay busy. I needed to stay involved with the people I had connected with. You just, I was once told that there was only one thing I had to change if I wanted. I wanted to stay away from substances, and that was everything.
Mhm.
And it's a big statement, but it's true. So I changed how I spent my days. I gave myself things to look forward to by keeping a schedule, going to meetings every day and night. Um, and eventually, about a year later, got a phone call from a friend of mine who I had met in meetings years back. And she offered me a chance to come to a training and I had no idea what this meant at all. Bear in mind, she said, "We're offering this training over here where I work." I knew she was a recovery coach, and I thought that was really cool. And I had had a coach before. Um, and she said, "Well, we're doing this training and I'd love for you to join us." And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll be there. It sounds great." Didn't really know what it meant, but hey, someone invited me to something cool. Sure. And I went to that that training, and I just fell in love with it. Um, that idea of being able to give back, to help others, all this, like it gave me the perspective of all this stuff I had been through, like all the chaos and the drama, in the hospital time and going to treatment programs and all this stuff I'd been through with the system, the judicial system, and just trying to figure out how to live, how to survive. I was going to be able to use that knowledge to help other people. And I thought, well, how cool is this? So I did that training, and then I just kind of didn't stop, kept going to trainings. I got an internship. I started interning with NAMI Rhode Island. NAMI is the National Alliance for Mental Illness. Became a facilitator of recovery connection groups, and got trained with their family to family program. I then started interning at Parent Support Network of Rhode Island, which I worked there for several years up until the pandemic, really. And they do work with families, helping the parents become educated about substance use and mental health. They help families navigate the system. Unfortunately, one of the side effects of using substances when you're a parent can be losing your custody of your child.
Mhm.
And I watched a lot of my friends as moms and dads go through that, and it's very painful. It's a very difficult process. The system puts you through a lot. You have to jump through a lot of hoops. So being able to help families, by educating them and being a parent partner. I also, which really this became my favorite thing to do, and it's something I'm still kind of doing. I became the manager of a workforce development program, helping others become trained and then certified as peer recovery specialists. And I love that so much. Like watching people, walk in the door just like I did, to come to this training, and then to help them, get internships, get placements, become certified, get jobs. And you watch their whole life come together. Like they just flourish. It's a beautiful thing. And I miss doing that work directly. I'm still doing some work with recovery friendly workplaces. But that was really cool
Mm.
because I had been through it myself, so watching other people do that. Um, so yeah, I did that for a while, and the pandemic hit, and unfortunately, our funding for the program I was working in was coming to an end. So it was time to move on. And so now, I mean, over the last few years, I've been doing all kinds of different work, everything from facilitating support groups, um, working on different contracts, helping with, like I said, the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative. I've also become pretty engaged in harm reduction.
Mhm.
As someone who has led an abstinence-based recovery and came from a 12-step program, like all of it has been 12-step for me along the way. I initially became engaged with harm reduction because I was curious, like, how does this work? Like, how is it that, my whole life it was pushed to be abstinent, right? And then I started to learn about the public health approach and thought, well, how useful would it have been if when I was actively using, I had folks I could reach out to for safe supplies that could talk to me about safer using practices, that maybe could have kept me from some of the overdoses I experienced, things like that. And I think that's why I've become so engaged with different, like syringe exchanges, um, just all of that kind of work I think is so important. And it also allows for, I don't know about anybody else out there or you perhaps, but when I was active, the majority of the time I used by myself. I was very isolated.
Mm.
I hid things. My family obviously knew I was, even when I wasn't living at home, it was pretty obvious. But I didn't have support. I didn't have people to talk to about actively using. And I feel that harm reduction opens the door for people to have someone to talk to
Well,
when they're acting.
that's a big source of controversy, isn't it? People like I know that Narcan and again, alcohol was my thing.
Yeah,
A drug by any other name, but there is a difference, and I was not a whole lot educated on the opioids and the. I mean, I've watched several of the Netflix documentaries and just golly
yeah,
it's
there's a lot out
staggering.
there.
Well, and what I was going to say, Leah, is the controversy of are you enabling? Are you and it's like, well, shit, they're going to be doing addicts are going to do what addicts do until they reach whatever point it is that they get into recovery, because we know that when we're in addiction it only ends one of two ways, period. There's
Yeah,
no decorating that pretty. You're
you're
either
right.
on your way to death, which we're what I mean, or you get into recovery. But while they're actively using and you can't make someone stop that, you can at least make it a little safer for them to where
Absolutely.
you do reduce the harm that they're doing to themselves. So yeah, I
Yeah.
know that that's a big controversy, putting vending machines with Narcan and stuff that I've seen. I don't have an opinion on those issues, but it's one of those things that if it can save the life of an addict that can someday get into recovery and help others, by God, it should be available.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that's why I kind of preface with the idea that I came from 12 step.
Mhm.
My own personal pathway is abstinence based. However, it's I think it's important that especially those that are so vulnerable. I mean, you and I both know when you're actively immersed in whatever substance it may be, and I mean, your day-to-day life is not fun. You're
Mhm.
removed from friends and family and the good stuff in life, and it's hard to talk to anyone.
Right.
And I think with harm reduction, especially like in outreach work, it gives people an opportunity to connect with another human being who gets it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's so important in this world, just to have somebody to talk to about what's going on, how you're feeling, and like you said, safer use practices. Make sure you have Narcan. And also for families to have access to Narcan, to get education um, about ways they can support their loved one. There are so many aspects to this. And I think that's how along my path after I became a peer, a peer recovery specialist and community health worker, I just kind of my mind opened to all these different pathways because I was meeting other people who weren't where I was. And I kept being told, and I think this is really important. This is vital. We have to meet people where they are,
Mhm.
not so much where we want them. We can hope that they'll get to a certain place, right? But how are they gonna get there? And I know that despite how much it hurt me to keep using, and I saw the pain it was causing, for example, my mom, and I saw how it damaged, relationships and friendships. I couldn't stop using until I I don't know, it was just a time and a place. I wanted to stop many times. I didn't wanna live the life I was living. But, it was a matter of being able to get a bed. I know a lot of people who are ready to stop and they struggle just getting into detox. They can't
Mhm.
get a bed. Or there's insurance that's an issue. There's money that's a barrier. Transportation's a barrier. There's a lot to it. And I think I watched it happen in my case, and I've watched it happen with many others where certain things have to align almost. And I hope that makes sense in what I'm saying, but that
Mhm.
gentleman walking up to me and saying, "Do you want help today? Will will you go to detox if I can get you a bed?" Yes, and he advocated for me and I got that bed. And I also had to learn how to advocate for myself, which was something that took time and experience to learn. Um, that, like for example, me saying, I don't think I should go home. I'd like to stay somewhere until I can get a bed and treatment. I
Mhm.
had to advocate for that. I had to ask for that. And I didn't know that my first time through or my second. It took a few times to learn these things, that there were even options, or that I could speak up for myself, or that I could advocate for different medications I needed along the way. I think it's particularly difficult, especially sometimes when you're young, or in my case, I had no prior experience. I wasn't, my father did drink. I was raised, my mom, she's absolutely straight edge, which is why I say to her, I don't know how I'm your kid. But I really am. She won't even take like a whole Tylenol. It's crazy. It's
Wow.
like, to me, I'm like, how do you do
Weirdo.
it? I know, right? What are you doing, mom? She doesn't drink, she doesn't smoke, nothing. And here I am, right?
Yep.
But
Yep. I get it. I get it.
but it's we learned by going through trial and error, being involved with the criminal justice system, unfortunately, and just having gone through it. That's how I learned how to speak up, what places to go, who to call, when to call, how to get a bed. Like, you learn those things over time. And I think that's also why peer support is so damn important. I mean, the fact that people with lived experience are there to help guide and mentor you through a system that is incredibly difficult to navigate. They don't make it easy. Tons of hoops to jump through.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not as easy as just giving someone the name of a treatment center or a detox and a phone number or a website. It's also about, what time do I call? Who do I talk to? Where do I go from here? It's not just going to detox, it's all those next steps, and understanding what options you have and what that looks like and what to expect. And just having support when you're, going in and out of those places, somebody to talk to. I have found it such a valuable tool, not only for myself, but just watching other people engage with coaches and with people who do peer support work. It's just incredible. I think it's such a wonderful life-saving tool. I mean, we have folks, we have psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, social workers. Everybody has their role and their place. But that lived experience piece is just so special. It's a tool that you learn, that is crafted from years of hard work and, not to sound cliche, but, blood, sweat, and tears. You earn that just by going through it yourself and sharing that with other people. I think at the end of the day that we are on this planet to support and love one another. And I don't mean love each other romantically, but to show kindness, to share our wisdom, to share our knowledge, and just to help each other through it.
Well, and is there any other feeling of getting knee to knee with another person that is has that gift of desperation, and you make yourself and your experiences available to them? What is that experience like for you?
I try to, when I share about my own stuff, so to speak, I make sure it's relative. I make sure that the person understands I'm not sharing to like one up them or to say, oh, my experience was da 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 da. Da." I want them to know that I've been through some stuff too. And I'm like an example of that hope. And it's not just me, it's countless others who are doing this work who have been through it. Being able to share your most vulnerable moments with another human being is a beautiful thing. And I think it's one of the most magical things about being human is when we can strip away that mask and just really be who we are and just talk like, the nitty gritty, the real stuff, what it's really like being a human being on this planet and going through some of the suffering we go through. I don't think any of us wake up one day and say, you know what? I want to be addicted to substances. I want to be an alcoholic. Um, it happens in such a progressive way. We're just living our lives and doing our thing. And the next thing we know, like, I mean, either, I don't know, you're in a car accident or you get into a fight or, you lose a job or whatever it might be that happens that opens your eyes. It could be a lot of things. And there you are. And in there begins the work. And for me, it was years of struggling and back and forth and going to meetings and doing step work and talking to sponsors and talking to people in my network, crying, journaling, listening to music, a lot of car rides,
Mm.
like really digging deep. Um, and if I can share any of that with someone in a way that's going to make them feel supported and loved and worthy and not alone, I'm going to do it.
And doesn't that shed a new light on the experiences that you had? You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? I guess where I'm leading with that, Leah, is the fact that speaking again, when I do speak, I speak of just my own experiences, obviously, but I to switch from victim mode, right? Do we know what I'm talking about when I say
Yeah.
victim mode? Everybody did this to me, poor me. I deserve this, and the world owes me to what can I do for someone else?
Yeah.
That there are no human words that can describe how that feels, how empowering and humble all at the same time that feels to be used to assist another human being out of that hold, to become so comfortable with your darkness that you're willing to march your ass right into someone else's to go, hey, I know the way out of here. Let me show you.
Yeah.
Can I help? Can I show you? Let me tell you what I did. Let me tell you better yet, let me show you how I got out, you know?
Yeah.
And to be able to be a vessel of, and I believe you used the word hope, which is, oh my God, girl. I had zero. I had zero hope I had hope, no hope for you. I had no hope for me. I had no
Yep.
hope for my children. I had no hope, which is
The
why I
birds
tried.
sing, and you're like,
Yes,
why are you singing? Why are you
right.
singing? There's nothing to sing about.
Which is why I tried to kill myself with alcohol.
Yeah.
I see that now, but when I can use that experience to reach down into that darkness of someone else's darkness and let them see just a glimmer through that keyhole of light that you spoke about,
Yeah.
it made everything I went through worth it. It made it
Absolutely.
worth it. It made it worth it.
I'm watching you talk and I'm looking at your shirt. Purpose driven. That's what I'm seeing from here, right?
Sobriety, yeah.
That's what it did for me. It
Mhm.
gave me a purpose driven life.
Mhm.
And that's what I try and do now. Like it brought purpose to me. I think I felt for so long like that self medicating and trying to hide. Instead of going through it, I was trying to bury it. And it's not
Mm.
easy to go through the emotions we go through and the pain we go through. The human experience can be the most beautiful thing
Mhm.
and the most terrible thing.
Mhm.
But what really for me was like truly, I keep using the word magical. Maybe it's because
Yes, it
it's
is big.
Halloween.
We don't
It's
have words. No, I
Halloween
get it.
magic.
Girl, I get it. Yes.
But that purpose driven life, having a purpose, my purpose has become helping others in whatever way I can. And
Mhm.
if that means like, I don't know, even helping build a website for somebody's nonprofit or creating a graphic or sharing my story somewhere or sitting down having a coffee with someone. I don't care what it is. If what I have been through in some way, shape, or form will help another human being, let's do it.
Mhm.
It's what got me where I am today, the support of others. I would not be here today had others not cared about me, had others not taken time to sit by my bedside and say, "Hey, Do you want some help? Or, hey, how are you?
Or, "Hey, I've been there.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
I know exactly." You know, for my husband to go, "Yeah, I know how you feel." Bullshit. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. But when my sponsor, when she looked me in my eyes and said, "I know exactly how that feels," I believed her.
Yeah,
I believed her. And it's like for the first time, I was able to hear truth and I didn't feel alone. I wasn't the only one. You know, the big book talks about, you know, we are survivors of the same shipwreck. My husband can't know how I feel. And thank God for him. Well, I don't know because I'm pretty grateful to be an alcoholic, quite frankly. I
I get it.
am. I am.
I get
It's
it.
got me here talking to you. So
Yep.
I'm pretty grateful that my life does have purpose. And there was huge meaning in the naming of this podcast, purpose driven sobriety. I don't want to be sober. I don't want to be sober. I want to be in recovery. Right? You
Absolutely.
take the
Yeah.
alcohol away from me, I'll find something else to try to kill myself with,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yep.
But getting
Yep.
into recovery and changing, just like you talked about, and it also says in the book, we change our people, places, and things. What we were
Yeah.
doing before wasn't working. You have to
Yeah.
change everything because everything you were doing before was broken. So
Yeah.
we do new things. And you know, to have purpose driven sobriety is recovery.
Absolutely.
When you're finding purpose in your sobriety, you know, or for your sobriety, that's recovery. And it's just it's such a beautiful thing when two alcoholic addicts can sit down and have that talk. There's, you know, it's so funny because I know you get this too. Tell me that you don't. You know, where you'll be talking to I've been calling them earthlings. You know, you've been and people will go, "Oh my gosh, you're just so honest. Oh, I just love how you," and it's like, why is that a compliment?
Yeah, that should
When did that
be.
become a compliment? I mean, thank you, but I
But
hope you're being honest with me too, right?
yeah.
When
Yeah.
did that become a compliment? It's one of those things that it's like I feed on honesty now. You know,
Yeah.
you know, the scales have been removed. Another big book says that will happen, that you're able to see things. You're able to see people, although we're not technically allowed to people take people's inventory. But you can see the bullshit just dripping
Yeah.
off of people, you know, and
I
it's like you
think
don't have to live like that
I
anymore.
think you feel it too. Like
Yes,
that
it gets on
energy.
you.
It's icky.
Yes, 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 girl. Yes, it's true. That toxicity, but again, you know, when you, it's just it is magical. It is
Yeah.
magical when you sit down and I remember my sponsor when she started talking to me and it was just like angels were singing. It just was because I just thought I
Yeah.
don't have to be alone. And the beautiful thing is for the rest of my existence on this planet, I don't have to be alone. I have a place to go. Anywhere in the world, I can find a meeting, I can find my people that will take the time to sit down and help me save my life if I get into a, you know, a situation.
Yeah. I think so many people in this world, there are billions of people on this planet, right? This little spinning rock that we all live on.
Mhm.
And I think so many people, despite there being billions of us, and everywhere we look, there's more, feel so alone, feel so different, you know, and uh, that
Terminal
I
uniqueness.
just hate it that people have to feel that way.
Mhm.
Like, honestly, I said this a little while ago, or at least kind of tried to, in that I feel we are here for each other and we should be here for each other. Where that, you may be the main character in your own story, sure. But when we reach out and connect with one another and we're supporting one another and we're building community, I don't know about everybody else, but I feel at my best.
Mhm.
supporting someone else and I'm helping someone else and I know I'm making a difference somehow,
Your
no
soul is
matter how
getting
small
fed.
it is.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm like on top of the world. It feels amazing. And and that's partly really why I feel that we are here for each other and we should be here for each other. Reach out to someone who is sitting alone, or that, if somebody walks by you and they're crying, or in this day and age too, with social media, I see so often these videos of people who are in, they're been in an accident, they've been harmed in some way, or even the videos you see of people who are, on the sidewalk and they're under the influence, and people are taking videos of them for
Oh,
likes.
oh, that just
It's
crushes
just
me.
awful to me. Why aren't you instead reaching out and asking, how can I help you? Or
Mhm.
helping them get connected to services in some way, or just sitting with them,
Or
bringing them a
just
coffee,
or just you know what? Just leave them the fuck alone.
or that. Yeah, right?
Don't yes, just
There's
what
no need to make money off of other
make it
people's suffering.
worse. Yes. Oh man, oh girl, you touched a
I mean, a
nerve.
big
Ooh.
part of the reason that I
Ooh.
went through what I went through was because of, and I love to bring up this topic, but big pharma. I was, given Oxycontin because my doctor had been told that it was safe, right?
Mhm.
I wasn't warned in any way, shape, or form. I wasn't told, hey, this is addictive. I didn't even understand what that meant. No clue. Didn't know about opioid withdrawal. No idea. Um, and then we find out years later that this pharmaceutical company was they knew it was horribly addictive.
Mhm.
They knew it was one molecule different
It
than
just blows
heroin.
my mind.
And they lied to us the whole time just to make money off of others suffering.
What is the name of
How
that
gross.
documentary? Do you remember? I'm gonna Google it.
Which one? There's Dope Sick.
Oh, okay, yep. Girl, name them so that people that are listening to the show, you better tune in and watch these shows. Get yourself educated. That blew my mind. The Pharmacist.
Yeah.
Have you watched The Pharmacist?
I don't think I have.
Girl, it's about a pharmacist. Oh, I think he lived in Louisiana. Oh, it's that. If that doesn't make you ragey and want to kick a puppy, do not email me. I'm not going to kick a puppy. You know what I mean? I'm just saying,
No puppy kicking. We love dogs.
if that doesn't make you ragey, but there's that
Yeah.
one pharmacist, I can't remember his name, shame on me, that was in Louisiana, there was a doctor in his town that was
Yeah.
prescribing oxy, and it ended up her business hours were like from 10 p.m. until like 6 a.m. Nuts. And it turns out the FDA knew it was just it's crazy. Anyway,
Yeah. There's Painkiller.
yes,
Painkiller's the newer one with Matthew Broderick, and
that's a new one, isn't it?
he plays, yep, that's the new one. Matthew Broderick plays Richard Sackler. That one's
Mm.
interesting. I think that's the one I watched most recently. There's also an interesting spin on the whole thing. There's a new show on Netflix that's called The Fall of the House of Usher. And it doesn't directly say, and keep this in mind though, it doesn't say the Sackler family. They're the Usher family.
Okay,
But the
well,
whole premise of the show, and it's a little spooky, so it's Halloweenish, right? But it's about a company, or a family that has a pharmaceutical company, and it kind of unveils itself as the show goes on, of course.
mhm.
But it's sort of a spinoff on the Sacklers, and how a family who's running a pharmaceutical company is like dysfunctional, and how they're lying about the medications to the public, and it's really just about greed. Um,
Same
it's
song, different,
really
yeah, same
disheartening.
story. Oh
Exactly.
my gosh.
Exactly. Like when I really learned, like I said, I had no idea about opiates in general. When I learned what was really happening, or it started to come out, my mind was blown.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know, if I guess we're all kind of wired differently, but I cannot bring direct harm to another human being. I just I have a really hard time with that. And the fact that anybody can sit back and lie to the public like that on such a large scale, while they're knowing people, like they were very aware that people were dying.
Well, and
Like,
it went even
people were
further.
losing their husbands, their wives, their daughters, their sons.
Yes.
Horrible.
It went
I
even
could.
further than that. The drug, all the way to the drug reps, the doctors,
Yeah,
because you're a sweet doctor. I'm sure, they're only as good as the information they're given at
exactly. Yeah,
first.
yeah.
But then it became that doctor that I was talking about on the that show, The Pharmacist,
Yeah.
when they finally did something about her office, they found truckloads of prescriptions that were already signed by her. All
Oh
she
my
had
God.
to do was fill in all they had to do is fill in the person's name that they were giving it to.
So it was basically a
Yeah.
pill mill.
Yeah, and
Oh my God.
absolutely. And there were the pharmacist would go by late at night with his wife, and they've got video where, I mean, he recorded everything. It's really cool.
Gonna have to watch
Yeah,
this. I don't know how I haven't
he
seen
would
it.
use his phone, and they would drive by, and he would record the line that was outside of this office. But then he learned that you could pay like a couple of $100 extra
Yeah.
to get a jump on the line.
Oh, of course.
Oh
Why
my
not?
gosh, girl, that just made me.
Uh,
I was like, how can you? Yeah, I'm with you. How can
It
you?
blows my mind
Yeah.
too, with
Mm.
especially with medical providers. I mean, we see this happening in treatment programs too, where there's people being trafficked, or they bring drugs into a facility and get the person caught up using. They're so vulnerable, and then they end up using it against them, and they traffic them. There's all kinds of stuff that has gone, taking advantage of families.
Mm.
They're where they are trying to get their loved one help, and they're paying like 80,000, $100,000 to send their loved one to this place that promises them the world for their loved one. And they're not even using evidence-based practices.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, like, they have like a half-assed staff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bummer, but unfortunately, human beings, some, again, I know we're all wired differently. It just boggles my mind. I think about this stuff all the time.
Well, there's a special
Like,
place in
how
hell
can
for
you do
people.
that?
Yeah, there's a special place in
Oof.
hell for people like that. So,
All for what? Money?
that's
Money is
exactly what it
gotta be the
was.
root of it. The
Yeah.
root of evil, I suppose, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
Ugh,
exactly the motivation. Yeah,
damn
that because
shame.
that one show, The Pharmacist, ended with that doctor. I don't know where she got the balls to actually come on that thing at the end of it. But
Wow.
she had been in some kind of a car
Money.
wreck. Yeah, well,
She probably
she'd been
got
in
paid.
some kind of a car wreck or something, and so she had to stop practicing. But she made no apologies for her practices. Yeah, she just was. It was
Wow.
anyway. Yeah, what it is. So tell me, how do you start your day every day?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, lately, I have been working remote
Oh,
since the beginning of the pandemic.
oh
Briefly
wow.
after, yeah, so I'm home a lot, and, my practices probably aren't the best right now. Comes and goes, we're always trying to make our, self-improvement and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty much, I get up, I spend some time with the pups. I've got a little miniature Shar named
Oh.
Mia, my little cutie. She's a little mush ball, all wrinkled and loves food, loves car rides. That's it. I think dogs have it all figured out. So her, make sure they're fed, have my coffee, and I kind of come in. I really just jump right in work. It's probably not the best thing to do, but that's generally what it is. I get up, get the dogs out, go outside a little bit, come in, make my coffee, make sure they're fed, and I usually just start kind of working on emails, checking social media, and that's where my day goes.
Start your day.
You know, I mean, I will say, when I was probably, it's funny how we can say when I was at my best, or when I felt I was at my best. I have lots of things that I enjoy reading, like daily practices. I love quotes. I'm a big reader. I used to get up and I would read things every day, things just about self-care practices, or just wellness, um, spirituality. And I feel that that's a great way to do, to kind of set your mindset for the day.
Mhm.
Um, One thing I do enjoy doing if I'm having a bad day, and this may not happen in the morning, could happen anytime, but I learned this a long time ago and it stuck with me, just to write a gratitude list. It seems simple, right? Or maybe not a big deal, but when you sit down, and you actually start thinking about all the things you have to be grateful for, especially when you consider how bad things could be,
Mm.
and you look at maybe the state of the world, just everything that's going on. It's just there's so much suffering. And here, like for example, here I am with a roof over my head. I have access to food. I have access to running water and electricity and clothing. I'm safe. I have my pups, you know.
Mhm.
I have a job. I have multiple jobs, unfortunately. And I'm okay. And I have a sense of wellness. It's not perfect. There's so much more I could be doing. There's weight I could lose. There's health things I could work on, you know, but I'm okay. And I know damn well I worked pretty hard to get to this point in my life. A lot of what I have has come very hard earned. I wasn't handed much in life. I did have a good family though. Just my parents are very supportive. We don't have a large family. I don't have a big family to lean on or anything, but my mom and dad were good parents and they took care of me and they made me feel loved and they encouraged me to learn and to try new things. And I will always be grateful for that. And my mom's still a huge part of my life. She's been there for me through all of this. She's given me countless rides to detox, treatment, meetings. Um, she's been very supportive. Even work, when I first started doing internships and didn't have my license, she was there. Um, so
Wow,
yeah, I
what a blessing. Well,
oh yeah,
it is literally impossible to feel any negative emotion and gratitude at the same time.
absolutely. And that's why
It's
I lean on
impossible.
gratitude.
Yes, it's
Yep.
impossible. That as much as it irritates the ever loving shit out of me when I call my sponsor and I'm in a 911, woe always me, everybody hates me, nobody loves me kind of mood. She's like, "Tell
Yeah.
me 3 things you're grateful for." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Shit."
she knows the trick. She gets you. Yep.
Air, water, and jelly beans. I mean, I just pull something out of my butt, and she's like, "Okay, how do you feel now?" And I'm like, "Crap. Okay, fine." Then I really start thinking, "Okay, what am I grateful for?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And her first thing is, "Who can you help? Who can you call right now? It ain't
Yeah.
about you. Get out of yourself."
So true. So true.
I know, because I don't want it's ew. That's a dangerous. I was talking to another alcoholic addict the other day. That's a dangerous neighborhood to go in my head especially
Yeah.
after dark and by yourself. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's not a good place. So I try to stay out of there as much as I can because when I get in there, I'm in danger. I'm in
Absolutely.
huge, grave danger. So I just love you and thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to me. I'm grateful that you took the time out of your day to do that.
I'm grateful that you took the time to have me here. Thank you. And thank you for all you're doing and just there's a lot of different podcasts out there and there's people who are just I think the most important part is that you're taking time out of your life to connect with other people and just to share that with the world and that's so important.
Mhm.
These conversations are very important. Connecting with other human beings it's everything.
Well, and just
Um
trying to be that hope, no matter if one, and I've said that this whole podcast thing has just been. If you haven't heard the story, I think I told the whole story on that first episode where I introduced myself. But it's been a God thing, and I've had very little to do with that outside of just showing up and talking to new friends, about things.
yeah,
It's easy to talk about what
that's right.
and if it reaches one person, then every single effort has just been so worth it. So worth it.
Yeah.
So
But it's so
have a very blessed day. And maybe I
thank
can
you.
get you
Happy
on
Halloween.
sometime soon. You as well. Have you on sometime soon. Maybe we do a pull a topic out of a jar that they're all
Oh,
the
I love
topics.
that. That's the
Yeah.
best.
Oh, I know it gets kind of interesting. So anyway,
It's
I'll reach
tricky.
out to you. But have a blessed day, Leah. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, love. I appreciate it very much.
All right. Bye-bye, sweetie.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Keep coming back.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.